artificial intelligence has proven to be extremely valuable for asset and wealth management. Leveraging on the combination of analytical AI and generative AI, Sphere has been designed to support your investment decisions while simplifying market analysis and decision-making. But in practice, how does it work? Starting with analytical AI, this facet of artificial intelligence plays a pivotal role in extracting valuable insights from extensive datasets and forecasting future behaviors and dynamics, especially within evolving environments like financial markets. On the other hand, generative AI is utilized to craft easily digestible content autonomously, providing clear insights and reporting. In Sphere, analytical and generative AI join forces in a collaborative approach. Every portfolio is analyzed in detail, leveraging on analytical insights and using forecasts to stay on top of risks and opportunities. On the other hand, the capabilities of the generative AI create streamlined summaries that provide a comprehensive understanding of these analytical outputs. Furthermore, Ask Sphere AI capabilities allow for an interactive experience with Sphere's intelligence, enhancing the explainability of recommendations and providing an in-depth understanding of investment decisions. For example, users can easily compare portfolios, assess risk concentration, or understand why Sphere is suggesting to include a specific instrument on the optimized portfolio. The fusion of analytical and generative AI represents more than a mere partnership. It embodies a powerhouse that magnifies our capacity to comprehend and navigate the complexities of financial markets.
Hello everyone, I'm delighted to welcome you to today's live event, the Executive Guide for a Successful AI Integration, brought to you by M.M. I'm Andrea, and today I'll be your moderator. Now, if you tune into our periodic conversations on AI and investments, you actually may notice that today we have a slightly different format. And well, this is to render our conversations that we usually have more understandable and accessible for our audience. Now, in the dynamic world of investments, the general hype surrounding generative and analytical AI is definitely palpable. But today, we're going to move beyond that mere excitement to explore those tangible benefits that we can see in artificial intelligence. Today, we're going to see how these advancements can collaborate with investment professionals to enable them to confidently navigate financial markets. Now, before we begin today's conversation, I'd like to tell you that for the past 7 years, M.M. has been at the forefront of AI development for investment professionals. And today, we are going to illustrate the process, best practices, and the opportunities of AI in investments that we have learned throughout this experience. In order to understand such path and comprehend these benefits, today we have a great opportunity to speak with two professionals that are going to shed some light and answer some questions regarding this topic. First of all, we have a great industry professional that works closely with institutional investors that have integrated artificial intelligence or are seeking to do so, Joana Fernandez, our Client Solutions Manager at M.M. Secondly, we have Lorenzo Malanga, who is an AI engineer, physicist, and develops AI models specifically for investment professionals. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Ande, for having us. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm great. Well, how are you doing?
Good. I would say good.
Super excited by this new format, I would say. So let's dive in.
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super thankful that you guys are here today because since we have a business or operational perspective of Joana, as well as a scientific perspective of Lorenzo, we're going to have a 360-degree view of the conversation on the Successful Guide for AI Integration today. To kick off the conversation, I like to start more on the business or operational side. So I'm going to refer first to Joana.
Sure.
I think we can all agree that there has been a general hype surrounding AI, not only in the investments industry, but in a wide array of industries, actually. As you work with many institutional investors, how would you say is the state of AI integration today? And how is it providing tangible benefits for investment decision-making?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's very interesting. You're absolutely right when you say there has been a hype around AI during the last years. we have been working in the world of AI applied to investments for a long time now. And definitely in the last, I might say, a couple of years, we have seen a change in the trend of how easy it has become, or how it has become a need to actually adopt this kind of technology to help you either making your life easier for tasks that maybe take too much time doing, that can be simplified, or that overall can be turned into more efficient processes. So I think the last steps we have done during the last years on this technology is really to enhance it, to make it easier to understand, and to get it closer also to the users that need to use them, to break a bit the fear of adopting such technology. And we do see that this fear is kind of fading away, and AI, it's kind of entering lives every day of our clients, which are easily adopting these solutions because they are becoming clearer and less costly to integrate, let's say.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there has been more of a shift in mentality.
Absolutely.
And it is no longer this new technology, but it's becoming more this necessity in order to navigate this rising complexity, especially when it comes to financial markets.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're seeing this a lot. We, of course, have a very specific target that has a lot of very complex problems to solve. And I think that leveraging on the AI and on the various forms that the AI can have, because of course there is a hype around AI, but there are different types of AI, and these different types of AI can help you in solving different types of problems. So I think this is absolutely right. We are seeing this, and I hope to keep seeing this more and more in the future.
Well, definitely. I totally agree. And I think that taking up on, more mundane tasks, and not only seen in investments, but across a wide array of industries. And that's why AI has grown to be what it is today. Now, to shed light on how AI can provide this tangible value, I'd like to kick off the conversation with a more practical use case. So this being portfolio construction, right? And by the way, the practical use cases that we're going to be presenting today are going to be done by leveraging Sphere, which is M.M's AI platform for investment professionals. So to kick off, the first practical use case that we're going to be speaking about is specifically regarding portfolio construction. And this is why I'd like to, address to you, Lorenzo, since you work specifically with AI models for investments. How can AI create portfolios at scale?
Well, that's a great question. And actually, I think it's a great example because it's one of the most straightforward use cases. So like you were saying before, the cap was kind of closed in the last, I would say, months, years. So it's been actually a wild ride now that I think about it. But in general, like portfolio construction is the go-to use case. So you want to have an efficient portfolio. So it's the business need is quite clear. So let me just do some drawings because I'm an engineer, so I'm definitely bad at drawing. So in order to come closer to the client needs somehow, Sphere, which is this, let's say, AI engine, what it produces is a couple of outputs, I would say. So on one hand, you have AI-powered portfolio. And on the other side, you also obtain really digestible comments, reports, diagnostic, which are built leveraging our generative AI integration. I think we will dig a little bit later on about that. But what it really means is that you really have something out of the box, which is digestible, expressed in natural language. So at the end of the day, you get here, which is kind of heavy on numbers, and here, which is kind of dense in terms of concepts and actionable knowledge. So, by delivering these two outputs, then the use case is clear. But in order to bridge the gap towards multiple use cases and accommodate for really customization, which was one of the key drivers here, is to actually allow the user to interact with this infrastructure with multiple inputs. So what we build actually allow you to build your optimized portfolio starting from an existing portfolio. Maybe you have a portfolio you have been managing for some years and you have been investing in the market and you want to improve it. You also might have a sort of target or reference portfolio or allocation. Maybe you are an asset manager that works in a large institutional asset manager, and you have an investment committee full of bright guys that come up with an asset allocation you want to converge to on the long term. Of course, this has been key and let's say super important is the available universe of instrument you are gonna include or not in your portfolio, and the preferences about it. So, I mean, you like more instrument types more than others, you want some constraint on the asset allocation, and so on and so forth. And then, last but not the least, there is a market view. So a market view, as you may guess, it's somehow an opinion on how we expect asset classes to perform in the future in terms of attractiveness. And the users can even upload their own, maybe on parts of the market, so that, here you have a full set of inputs so that the machine can crunch all the numbers and come up with a portfolio that takes only into consideration. So here the key idea is to expand the amount of inputs the user can get and therefore obtain a meaningful result.
Well, I actually really appreciate your explanation of this AI engine and specifically how Sphere can do so, because there's a common misconception that AI can do this on its own, and it's rather not but a topic about replacement, but rather enhancement.
Yeah.
We're talking about plugging in the inputs and sort of having the AI engine make that optimal portfolio and reports based on your inputs.
Yes, I mean, here, the point is that you generally fear that this is like a black box that you don't understand, you cannot interact with. Rather, now, if you allow me to draw a little bit, here, it is your stuff coming in.
Yeah.
There is your target portfolio coming in, your universe. And then you can even leverage the fact that our system is so powerful so that you can have AI taking into account all this information, for example, and coming up with, the final portfolio. And another part which is kind of overlooked is that you are not required to have your own market view. You can inherit the one that Sphere produces.
Yeah.
So here, actually, if you don't have a market view, you can just leverage on the AI powered one so that there is actually some clever stuff within it.
And so now you know that we can integrate all these inputs and have an enhanced portfolio and automated reports.
Yeah.
But how about we decompose a little bit the engine? Could you decompose it a little bit just to comprehend where exactly we can see the AI in all of this?
Well, I think I got the color code quite right now at the beginning. If you think like the purple lines are and areas are, the analytical AI powered logic, I would say. So the one that computes all the market data and all the market intelligence, I would say. Then you combine it with actually the generative AI, which lies mainly here when you have to synthesize all this information, basically. And so here you basically leverage also this kind of new complementary technology, which is able to generate, natural language, which is a cool way of expressing complex contexts. So here you get the full potential. I think we will maybe see in action later on, but it's definitely something users play a lot because it's super synthetic.
It's definitely very interesting to see how analytical and generative AI can play together on this. Analytical AI gives you that portfolio enhancement, that optimal portfolio that you're seeking for.
Sure.
And generative AI sort of gives you this synthesized version in order to be more comprehensible and digestible for the client leveraging this technology in order to, optimize its investment process.
Yeah, think about, I don't know, maybe you read this report, it comes up, maybe at your investment committee. So it's really usable. That's the main driver.
And well, now that we've seen, sort of the theoretical part, I'd like to jump onto more the practical part. So maybe Joanna, since, you always leverage this technology and work closely with the people who use it in their day-to-day lives, could you maybe jump onto Sphere and see how Sphere leverages analytical and generative AI in order to construct portfolios?
Yes, absolutely. I think I would like to pick on something that Lorenzo said in the beginning, which is the possibility to actually do customization at scale. So Sphere was built following this final aim, this ultimate aim of allowing users not only to manage one portfolio, but really to manage their activity at scale, and therefore ease the processes and make them more efficient. Actually, it was quite accurate, the drawing of Lorenzo. So I think that it was so simple to see it on paper, and it's also going to be very simple to see it on Sphere, because we have created a stepper of steps, sorry, that allow you to go through all of these different inputs. And if, for example, I start creating a new portfolio, this is exactly what you will see here on the menu of the left. So we have main information on the portfolio, which we always need to provide. And then we start with the first input, which is actually the only mandatory input, in a way that all these different things that we can give to Sphere, we are not obliged to do it. So we actually have two different roads. We can go with the AI and we can tell them, okay, Sphere, create a portfolio with this universe, but do as you wish, using your market view, using your preferences, using everything you would like. Or we can define all these preferences through asset allocation constraints, single weights on instruments, instrument constraints, risk constraints, where we are going to define different targets of risk, portfolio strategy, where we are able, for example, to add our target portfolio and set a specific tracking error to be respected during the optimization. And last but not the least, the market view part, which I think deserves a bit more of an intervention, mainly because, as Lorenzo said, it's one of the inputs that you can provide to Sphere, but it's also something that we provide ahead to the clients.
One of the many inputs, as I see, because it's definitely a hyper customizable solution, because as Lorenzo showed upon, but he showed more in theory, all of the inputs that you can put in. Joanna, you definitely displayed like in practicality in the step, or even that you can definitely like customize it in the way you want. So
yes, absolutely. If we can go back to the market views, I think it would be interesting to stop here for a second and see the different types of market views that we have. I don't know if everyone is seeing my screen, maybe. Okay, super. I see you see it now. So, long story short, although I will ask my colleague Lorenzo to give us a bit more of an idea of how this works, we have two types of market views that actually they represent the same thing. Our efforts was towards developing two different types of expressing this market view. One that we consider that might be a bit more intuitive, expressible at different horizons, and that the user can interact with, or the part of the market view that gives you a bit more of a sneak peek on what's happening behind the scenes. Here, as you said, we can go with Sphere's forecast, or we can interact with these probabilities of market regimes. And this is exactly what I would like to ask Lorenzo, in the sense that I know it's very complex, and maybe we don't have the time today to explain it. We have done it already in the past.
I think I already bored them too much about it. So
probably.
I think so.
But I think it would be very interesting to have you answering a question that I get asked so many times, which is, what is actually the benefit or the ultimate value of relying on an approach that has a probabilistic forecast of the evolution of the market for my specific horizon?
Yeah. Super happy, because, probabilities are kind of weird, because our brain is not engineered to reason in terms of probabilities, but it's such a powerful, let's say, concept in general. And if you think about markets and how they can be noisy and weird in their behavior, when we speak about a market view in terms of Sphere methodology, we are actually speaking about regimes, right? And that's why you are displayed those nice sliders about regime probabilities, because here we are speaking about risk regimes. So if you allow me to simplify a little bit here, Sphere reasons in terms of three regimes, which are low risk, mid risk, and high suspense here, high risk. So if you think about it, it's fairly intuitive, the fact that it characterizes some states of the market in which the variability of outcomes can vary a lot. So if you are in a low risk regime, which means like kind of boring market, then you can leverage momentum, you can leverage risk factors in a given way. So you can build your strategies leveraging on the fact that the prevailing market regime in the market is low somehow. And why do we allow users to interact with it? Because if you change probabilities and think, for example, you're going to have, 20% low risk, 50% mid risk, and 30% high risk, then the resulting portfolio will absorb those probabilities, mainly in terms of the potential shifts in market regime. So it will basically mean for the client that it will be kind of risk aware in a meaningful way, which means at the end of the day, no need to rebalancing all the time, because it's already kind of discounting the fact that there is a 20% probability of jumping back to a really cool state for the market. So by tuning those numbers, user can actually inject it into the portfolio.
So sort of like this probabilistic measure of risk that actually makes the portfolio more adaptable to any scenario, we can say.
That's right. I mean, since we are not always in 100% of one state, since we have the spectrum of continuous regimes, then the portfolio is kind of well positioned towards those shifts. And we believe it's extremely valuable because, of course, when you touch your portfolio, it means somehow you are going to revise your decision. So that's the main goal.
And not only that, but, well, the user can actually interact with it in case they are not so much confident within the view that the AI has. So, well, as Joanna showed, you can actually play with it. So it's just the value of mixing and matching.
Or maybe you could just focus on the asset classes you are more good at. For example, maybe you are specialized in European stocks and you just leave custom regimes for that.
Well, now that we have seen what market regimes are and even the stepper, I'd like to remind everyone that if you have any questions, you can or drop them down below in the comments, since we have a live Q&A session at the end with Lorenzo and Joanna, of course. Or you can head on to www.m.m.ai, and we have a series of all documentation that we're going to be addressing today. Or if you'd like to see Sphere yourself, you can head over and book a demo over there. Now, hopping on to the next topic, actually, since we've seen all of this in theory, we saw even the stepper, how it works, how you can create a portfolio with AI. I believe our viewers would like to really see the output, like what is going on, what can we see at the end once we construct this portfolio with Sphere. So Joanna, could you maybe head on to Sphere and show us what is the final output and what can decision makers do with it?
Yes, of course. So I'm just going to show you portfolio that has been already being monitored, rebalanced, managed with Sphere. As Lorenzo explained in the beginning, we can have two different types of outputs. So by going down the page, this page that we are looking at right now, we have several analyses that are an outcome of the analytical part of the models. So we have metrics, we have exposure analysis, we have analysis on performance attribution, volatility contribution, different levels of granularity. So there is really a lot of analytics that is created for these portfolios, arriving to factor exposure analysis. So we are really able to assess a lot of different aspects of our portfolio. Where the generative AI comes into play. It comes into play on this part where a summary of the most critical part of the portfolio, the exposure to different factors, the exposure to different asset classes, is summarized in a very relatable content, in a way that it's something that is digestible for the user itself, for internal stakeholders, for final clients. And it's basically connecting all the dots between all the analytical output that sometimes might not be very easy to read. So I think it's very important that we have put these two things together, because we still have the core of the analytical AI, but we have introduced the layer of the generative AI that not only makes it easier to understand the choices of the analytical side of the models, but also makes it easier for me to create an output that then I would like to share.
Well, definitely. We can really see how generative AI is leveraged in order to translate, let's say, this analytical output. But, well, there's definitely a consensus that generative AI is usually leveraged for more of its creative capabilities. So maybe, Lorenzo,
Yeah.
since, well, you know the model better than anyone else,
Kind
I'd
of
say.
know those beasts, yeah.
I wanted to ask, how can you ensure that the generative AI's output is coherent with the one of the analytical one? So how can you, let's say, you use the word tame the generative AI in order to correspond with that analytical output?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting to go a little bit deeper on how technically we managed to achieve such good results, because users are basically loving this kind of functionality. So yeah, as you rightly stated, in general, financial markets and concepts are not easy, and that's why we have built such, a complex system, because it's non-linear, it's hard to evaluate, right? So the starting point is that we cannot rely on random generative AI text generation, because it doesn't know the domain, right? So what we did was to basically start from our analytical AI, let's say, submodules. I'm somehow confident that the people that followed us before know that we have this complex architecture, which is always explainable. But here, in order to allow for the AI to generate meaningful contents, we have built such a, let's say, controlled generative AI, which means getting all these inputs, which are actually intermediate steps of the model, and feed it to our prompting engine, which we built in-house, to basically, again, connect all the dots in terms of what's meaningful for a given positioning or for a given portfolio. So
It's
that
very interesting. It's like a custom
it's
prompting
like
engineering
you tell the fisher
layer.
where the fish is somehow. That's the metaphor, right?
So that you control.
Yes, that's the idea.
Yeah,
because if
absolutely.
you're gonna teach him to fish, then that's a long way. Let's say. Then if you teach it to fish and tell where the fish is, then the target is gonna be quite right in general. But not only that, because after calling, let's say, the generative AI engine here, what we do is an extra layer of coherence check. That's why we stress the fact that it's controlled somehow. Because then, again, we know that large language models and generative AI have the potential to hallucinate, given also the amount of content that's being fed to it. So we control basically that the predicates that come out are financially meaningful, that are logically linear somehow, so that they follow some logical patterns in a way they're accurate. So in such a case, then we are 100% sure that the system is actually showing meaningful, actionable information.
Yeah, and that is a very important way sort of to actually control the generative AI, as you say, because you're limiting those creative capabilities just to comprehend the analytical output and not invent something else.
Yes, that's right.
And well, now that we know the theory and how you implemented it, I'd like to see some more of that generative AI within Sphere, and maybe even ask some questions, see what questions can we ask to Sphere, and actually see that generative AI layer in action.
Yeah.
So, Joanna, could you maybe show us a little bit of Sphere and see some more of these generative AI capabilities?
Yes, absolutely. I'm actually glad that you turned back to me, because I think it was very interesting to understand how this is built, and to see how we can leverage on this kind of controlled generative AI to make two different things. The first one is the part of the automatic commentaries, which are generated on a daily basis, updated on a daily basis, and are customized for each of the portfolios, and of course are always available from the beginning. The other part of what we have done with generative AI is AskSphere AI. I'm going to jump right to the kind of questions that we can make AskSphere AI, because what actually allows us to do is, okay, maybe there is information that I don't have immediately available on that brief summary that you have provided me, but there are information that I would like to ask, that I would like to get in a simple and summarized way. So AskSphere AI provides that possibility. As Lorenzo also mentioned, and we have been through the technical part so much, so let's not go there. But the way we have constructed our models make them explainable by design. So it's kind of, can I call it easy?
Yeah.
It's kind of
It was
easy.
kind of streamlined. Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of easy to really get the idea of the different decisions that the model is making at different steps. And this allows us to interact directly with the analytical outputs and transform it into simple answers. For example, we have different things that we can do, like compare to different portfolios that maybe are following a different set of constraints or a different market scenario to see how they would diverge from each other. We can ask specific questions on our portfolios, or even going to the most specific example is trying to understand or ask Sphere directly why it has suggested to increase or decrease a specific instrument within the portfolio during an optimization.
Wow, that really helps with the explainability aspect of, well, investment decision making and, well, AI, of course, but it actually really helps also in the optimization of reporting and explaining.
Absolutely.
And yeah, could you maybe share like what is exactly, like, what are some use cases that AskSphere is now used for, since definitely has become a star feature, so what are some use cases of AskSphere?
I think that either AskSphere or even the part of the brief summaries we generate for every portfolio, they have different applications in a way that maybe one client can use it also within their process to satisfy different needs.
Mm-hmm.
As I was saying before, it's written in a language that is relatable to the language that we speak, that we all speak, and not only stakeholders within the company that maybe have different knowledge, but maybe also the client. It's a language that speaks also to our clients. So we can either use it internally to help us in better understanding the decisions that the models are doing, in creating quick and simple reporting, and then even to present it to clients, because everything we saw is exportable in a PDF report and can be easily shared.
Well, I think actually that is a great note to start our live Q&A. We have actually begun receiving questions throughout the whole conversation today. So in case you have any more of these, don't hesitate to drop them down in the comments and just let us know. Remember, you can also head on to m.m.ai in order to check out all of the official documentation regarding Sphere, or book a demo in case you would like to see the platform yourself live. We're always available for you. Now, let's kick off the Q&A. Let's start off with the first question that we received, the very first. So for Lorenzo, what type of data is leveraged by Sphere?
Well, I think that's a great question, first of all. And I also think it's a question I love to answer, so I will keep it short, right? In order to understand what kind of data flows through the system, let's think of, let's say, the data space as defined in 2 dimensions. Let's say the time horizon at which you take and evaluate decisions, and let's say the predictive power. So since our job is to build optimal portfolios for institutional investors, of course, the sweet spot, as many of those drawings, is in the top right corner. So what we need is basically data which is relevant on the long term, which means months, years, not hours, right? And then, of course, we need to maximize for predictive power. And basically, the data points that satisfy those requirements are market data like prices, distribution of returns, volatility, anything that can be traced back to price action. Then we have fundamental data, like profitability of firms, expected growth, something that gives a cool snapshot of the entities that we are trading and analyzing. And then last but not the least is like the macroeconomic context. So these three kinds of information actually have deep meaning in terms of the phenomenon that we are trying to model, which is financial markets. It's reliable, and we know what it means, like think of macro variables or fundamentals. And most importantly, they have a good structure which can be dated back deeply in time. So since our system is AI driven, needs a lot of data points. So the more data there is, the more logic can be exploited.
Well, if I may,
Yeah.
I would like to add a bit of a twist to this
Wow.
question, because I think
Yeah.
that we hear this question a lot,
Yes.
but the things that are maybe a bit more curious about is what about sentiment data? What about satellite data? What about all that group? Where does it fit? And do we use it? We don't?
Here I would answer again, considering two aspects. The first one, again, is stressing the fact that we are making decisions on long-term horizon. So simply sentiment data, so like the news that came out today, is something which is extremely short-lived. So it vanishes over time in a really small period of time. So it would be actually useful if you operate kind of in this section of the data space. Like if you have to take decision in terms of hours of days, then it might be useful. But then if you need to allocate for months, then the latest news is not really relevant. Actually, it could even just be noise. That's what we experienced. Not that we didn't study this information. Actually, it contains a lot of interesting ideas. I would even add an extra mile, because there is this kind of intermediate kind of data point, which is alternative data. Mm-hmm. Which somehow it's in between, because it can be relevant for our time steps horizons. But the problem is it's uncertainty on the predictive power, because everybody, for example, knows that satellite data was a surprise and was useful to model some mispricing, but then everybody knows about it, and then there is no edge anymore. So this kind of data is not reliable enough. Also because, and that's the second answer, it's get all discounted in market data and prices. So we all know how competitive is market, and so how it continuously discounts information within prices.
Yeah. Okay. That's very interesting. Thank you. Very useful to know where exactly the data comes from. Yeah. So we do have other questions. So which area of the investment process could benefit more from AI integration? So I would give this question to Joanna, since she works closely with institutional investors and knows greatly their investment process.
Well, I have to say that there is no best area in a way that we or AI in general can support different phases of the investment process, from the creation of the market view and the decision of a strategical asset allocation, arriving and helping to the construction of a portfolio of a final client. So there's really not an area on which we say, this is where AI can support you. The rest, it doesn't help. No, it always depends. You have seen, I think, when I showed Sphere that, and this is the nice thing about Sphere, I would say, because we all have that stepper for portfolio construction. There are other sections on Sphere we didn't control today regarding risk or positioning signals, but more specifically focusing on what we saw today for the portfolio. That part of Portfolio Studio, it's not used to satisfy only one specific use case. It's used, all of us have access to that initial stepper, And then we can customize it and we can give the inputs that serve our specific use case. So I can construct a portfolio in indices if I want to build a strategic or a tactical asset allocation. I can construct a portfolio that will be a model portfolio for my clients' portfolios to make sure that I am controlling the risk profile.
Okay.
Or I can upload all my clients' portfolios and manage them directly with Sphere, having maybe a tactical allocation, a model portfolio as a reference. So it's very modular and it's really customizable according to the exact need. So that's why I think there is no best way of supporting or no best area of the process to support. The way in specific that Sphere can be used, it really depends on the specific use case and then just needs to be adapted to that specific use case.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And well, remember everyone that you can drop your comments down below in the comments. If you're watching from Zoom, you can. We have a live Q&A session has opened, and on LinkedIn you can drop them down below in the comments. Remember that. Now let's follow up. We have follow-up questions for Joanna, actually, another one. So a lot of the comments around the generative AI capabilities are retail focused. What would be the benefit for institutional investors?
A lot of the comments are retail focused. I don't know if I totally agree with that. No, in a way that the portfolio we saw might have been a retail-oriented portfolio, but or more a portfolio of a final client that really has a specific risk profile, and then the generation of the summary, it's more related to that specific portfolio. These all depend on the portfolio we're treating with Sphere. So if it's more a portfolio directed to an institutional investor, so maybe something that it's, for example, an asset allocation for an investment committee, that would be or would have a comment generated anyway, and would be more in line with what an investment committee then would need to assess.
Of course.
So it doesn't mean the fact that we saw today a specific portfolio, it doesn't mean that this generative AI is only directed to that specific kind of portfolios. It can be really adaptable according to the input that we give it as well.
Yeah, as we saw in the beginning, like it can be hyper personalizable, and
yeah, exactly.
It depends.
It's a bit like what I said. It adapts to the use case.
Exactly.
So depending on the perspective on which we would like to integrate these kind of things, we will also receive different outputs.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Okay. So we have other questions. If we don't get the time to answer them all, remember that we will follow up in case we don't get the chance to do so, to answer them live, because we have limited time, unfortunately, today. But if you still have your questions, drop them in the comments and we will follow up with you. Now, the next question is for Lorenzo. Edward is asking, how is the objective of not creating a black box while making the insights explainable achieved? Or is this achieved via the generative AI making the output of the analytical model explainable in a human manner?
Well, I would say it's like the second sentence is quite accurate in the sense that, of course, as I was explaining before, you get the analytical AI, which acts as a source for the generative AI. So this is actually happening, of course, but the point here is that even this side has to be explainable. So what you will generally find in generally available solution, you have ex post explainability. So you basically train a model to understand what the model is doing. So it's a kind of two-order black box actually. So whereas in our approach, since by design we made it explainable, which basically means that we control intermediate results, could be, for example, some diagnostic portfolio, which is at the allocation level, at the selection level. So we really have the possibility to, as a human, go down the model and understand what information is flowing. Then the same can be done for a generative AI, which is basically used as a nice and clean and natural language generator to be actionable again. So I would say that the answer is both. It's the analytical AI driving the generative AI by giving the right context and the right way of connecting the dots. And then, of course, the analytical AI needs to be explainable. Otherwise, what are you going to pass to the generative AI if it's just 300 equation formula? So it doesn't make sense, right? So it's achieved in both ways.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Now, the next one is for Joanna. So, Joanna, how do clients leverage generative AI on their day-to-day basis?
Well, I think we go back a bit to the same topic, so I will
rewind a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Go back to what I was saying before. And I think, again, it all depends on the specific use case. But I would say there are two major blocks where this is really starting to be useful and used intensively by our clients. On one side, we have the interactive part, let's say, which really allows you much more than before to understand the reason behind these decisions. It's not easy to trust something you don't know. Yeah. I think we can all agree with that. And the fact that now we can really interact with Sphere's intelligence and get the answers to the things it is suggesting us, it's really allowing our users to build this trust and to understand why, and maybe also compare Sphere's decisions with its own decisions. On the other hand, it's more related to the easy reporting that can be that they can get from Sphere and from these generative AI summaries, the easy way on which they can export the report and share it again with internal stakeholders, with external clients, making sure that it's all written in a digestible and relatable language that can be interpreted by everyone. And of course, all of this will always be followed by the analytical AI too. So I think it's a very complementary thing that we have on Sphere, and that is really ensuring that the explainability and communication of these outputs is always easier.
Definitely like smoothing out the explainability aspect, but not only that, also cutting time short for so much reporting.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because this
became lazy.
Take into consideration that these guys made a really good job in building this kind of engine. And it's actually very fast. So when you create a portfolio in Sphere, you get this automatic summary almost instantly. Yeah. So it's not that you have to analyze all the analytical part and then construct your own reporting. So the time that you used to lose doing that is saved. Of course, here we're talking about a portfolio. The true key is when you talk about portfolios at scale. So when you talk about having this done for, I don't know, 100,000 portfolios, let's say. So
you can do it all in a click.
Exactly. This is really what is changing the pace and what is really meaningful in the end of all of this is the possibility to do this at scale.
Great. Now we have another question. This one is for Lorenzo. Lorenzo, how do you analyze the sensitivity of a portfolio to macroeconomic variables?
I would say, so as I was explaining before, macroeconomic variables are some input variables within our model. So they are kind of already considered when optimizing a portfolio that you get in the end. But then if you ask for sensitivities, then we have two dimensions in which we can be analyzed. It can be in terms of, let's say, macro risk exposure. So we have some analytics in terms of how the portfolio is exposed to such factors. And I would even add the fact that macroeconomic can be kind of crossed within regimes. So, I mean, we can basically understand how the market is sensitive to some macro variables through regimes. So through how the various transition probabilities can be can unfold and therefore have some sort of I I would say, waterfall reconstruction of what's the driving force in terms of macroeconomic scenario, which has been discounted in the model. So it's twofold, I would say, both on risk factors and on regimes.
Okay, thank you. Now, remember, everyone, we still have a couple of minutes left for the Q&A. So if you have any other questions, just drop them down below. If we don't get to answer them, we will follow up with you. Now, remember, you can visit m.m.ai to visit the official documentation regarding Sphere or book a demo in case you'd like to see Sphere live for yourself. Now we have another question for Lorenzo, so like a follow-up one.
Wow.
So do your market scenarios come exclusively from the past or somewhere else?
Well, first of all, history is the only data that we got. So, of course, we need to dig through history to understand what the future will like. The point is how we do it. So, again, it's a matter of weighting the right data points, understanding what they mean, and especially having in advance some ideas on how you could expect to leverage a given risk premium or a given dynamics which is present in the market, and then check it, in terms of financial soundness. So here the key aspect is, of course, you're gonna rely on historical data, because if we already knew the future, then the magic is there, I would say.
Then what are we doing here?
Yeah, then what are we doing there? So yeah, of course we rely on past data. The point is how we treat it. So it's definitely I would say both an art and a
Wow.
science. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think that is actually a great note to end our conversation today.
Mhm.
So first of all, thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank
I
you.
had a
Thank you
lovely
for
time
having
with
us.
you both.
Let's do it more often.
Yeah.
I think we definitely covered the topic of AI integration for institutional investors, well, down to a T, because we covered, that business side, the practical side, and we even covered the theoretical
Yeah.
and scientific side with
Okay.
Lorenzo. So everyone, if you'd like to have more documentation or know anything else about Sphere, remember, once again, head on to m.m.ai. And if you'd like to book a demo, we will be expecting you. And well, welcome you, of course, and make you see Sphere by yourself. Okay. Now, in closing, this event has provided us with invaluable insights regarding the topic of AI integration. And while it is evident that AI has established itself as an enduring presence, and it is definitely providing institutional investors with a competitive edge in, well, a very complex landscape. Now, we trust that the real-life examples and use cases that we shared with you today will serve as valuable as you embark on your own AI journey. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.